This is History Myths and Misconceptions. And today's misconception is Pompeii and Eruption of Vesuvius. There's a number of misconceptions about the ancient city of Pompeii and the eruption of Mount Vesuvius that eventually buried this city and in a way preserved it for future generations. The first is quite simple. At least a half of people who ever heard of Pompeii don't know that it wasn't the only place affected by the infamous eruption. It covered a significant territory, and another important place destroyed by the volcanic activity is the town of Herculaneum. It is smaller than Pompeii, but in many ways it is as important for our understanding of antiquity as its more popular counterpart. Second is the date of the event and the whole situation with Mount Vesuvius. Vesuvius is an active volcano. The catastrophe of Pompeii is the most significant eruption we know of, but it wasn't the first or the last significant eruption. Vesuvius is still alive. The last notable eruption happened in 1944 and destroyed a number of villages in Campania. The eruption that destroyed Pompeii and Herculaneum, and other smaller locations as well, is the eruption of the year 79. And we don't know the exact date of the eruption. The absolutely final and absolutely scientifically correct dates that you could hear from historians even 10 years ago are now considered inaccurate. There is new evidence, and the dates were recently revised. We don't know what new evidence might pop up in the future and how many revisions we will have later on. Current evidence implies that the eruption occurred in late October or possibly in November of the year 79. Previous conventional dates were August the 24th and the 25th. They are not valid anymore. Another popular misconception is what exactly happened and how people died. Mass culture kind of spreads this idea of lava bombs, fire everywhere, etc. But the main cause of deaths was different. Also, different places were affected differently, so the situation of Pompeii and the situation of Herculaneum were not identical. And the biggest misconception of all is that it was an instant event. Like nobody expected the eruption and then suddenly everybody is killed by lava, nowhere to run, like a nuclear bomb explosion. Well, no, not really. There are theories and the events cannot be fully reconstructed. But what we know, or what we think we know, is this. The eruption was a disaster, but it wasn't an instant disaster. People knew something was coming, and most probably the majority of Pompeii's population was evacuated. It seems that only the most stubborn inhabitants decided to stay in Pompeii. They had their chances to escape, but they decided not to use them. It is probably a bit different for Herculaneum. It was harder to escape from this coastal town, and, once again, there are theories about what exactly happened there. And we don't have many first-hand accounts on the catastrophe itself. In fact, we have only one, by Pliny the Younger. It was long believed that the main cause of death was the poisonous gas. Right now, the dominant theory is that most of the people were killed by extreme temperature. Like seriously extreme, when you become essentially vaporized. The famous casts of the inhabitants of Pompeii show the terrible agony of dying people, which might be deceptive. It is probably not the preserved suffering of people dying from gas poisoning, but the spasm of a body hit with a high, very high, 300 degrees Celsius high temperature. These people almost certainly died in a blink of an eye. And in the case of Herculaneum, which is different from Pompeii, this is precisely the reason why we can't figure out not only the number of the casualties, but even the approximate number of the town's inhabitants. The bodies found in Herculaneum are either under the ground, where the people were hiding, or near the waterfront. We just don't know what happened to the rest and how numerous they were. They could be vaporized, or maybe not. Hard to say.